Come for the bread, stay for the politics. I'm Ben Walsh, and this is Let Them Eat Bread. Welcome back. This is the second part of our mega episode on making brioche. As you can see in front of me, I have our dough fresh out of the refrigerator. It has been sitting in the fridge now for about 9 hours. So I'm going to uncover it here and put it onto our lightly floured work surface. Oh, and it's sticking a little bit. That's all right. All right, so you can take your dough and put it on there. We're only going to use half the dough. I promised I would show you only how to make one half. Save the other half for later if you want. So we're going to knock out a little bit of the air in it, if there is any. And then we're going to divide our dough roughly in half. This doesn't need to be an exact measure at all. All right. So I'm going to take our other half of our dough and just roughly shape it into a ball and put it back in the fridge to use later. Actually, since it stuck a little bit last time, let's just put a little bit of flour on the bottom. Just a teeny, tiny bit. Remember, we did flour this when it went in before. We don't want to dry out our dough too much. All right, so now we have our one half of dough here. We're gonna use our palms to form it into a rectangle about, let's move some of this flour around here, about 8 inches by 6 inches. So I have a bench scraper here that I'll be using to measure, but roughly, if you have your hand outstretched like this, the distance between your forefinger and your thumb is about 6 inches, and the distance between your thumb to the edge of your pinky will be about the other side. So just a useful thing for measuring there. If you're having trouble shaping it, just move it around, manipulate it a little bit. And our rectangle doesn't have to be perfect because we are going to roll this up into a log. All right, so this side is about where we need it to be. So let's just use the scraper here and get this on. And this side's just a little too wide. So let's bring this in here. Sorry about the noise. There we go. Use our hands here to manipulate the dough into a nice rectangle. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our dough from the long side and just roll it up nice and tight. All right, so now we have a little roll of dough. You can see it's about 8.5 inches long. Perfect. All right, so now what we're going to do, we're going to put our dough in our container here, and we're going to let it sit for an hour and a quarter. So for the bread tin, you need to make sure that you grease it first. I have my little pat of butter here for my second loaf that I'll do a little later. And afterwards, you need to make sure also that you have a piece of parchment in there. It'll make it easier to lift it up. You can see with my parchment that I've got it over the edges a little bit. This will allow you to pull it up after it's baked. So this needs to be covered and set to rest for an hour and 15 minutes. So let's do that. And this doesn't need to rise warm. This is meant to rise at room temperature. We're going to expect a lot of that rise to come from the oven. Okay. And again, it doesn't have to be super tight. You don't really want it to be super tight. So let's move this to the back here. Set ourselves a timer for 75 minutes. So now what we're going to do is we are going to uncover our bread if it's ready. And it should have doubled in size by now. If it hasn't, just keep it going. it will get there eventually. What we're going to do now is we're going to preheat our oven to 350 degrees. You're going to do this. I'm not going to do this on camera. We're going to do this off camera. Once the episode ends, is you're going to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. You're going to brush with a single egg, a little egg wash here. And then after you do that, you're going to let it cook for 30 to 35 minutes. It's suggested that you cook it in the center rack of the oven. If you're cooking 2 loaves at once, you didn't just do 1 loaf like I did, you will want to put it in. You'll want to put it in the. You'll want to switch them around about 20 minutes in to ensure even browning. All right. I can't wait to see your bread when you bake it this week, and I will see you next week for another episode of Let's Make Bread. Take care, everyone.